In the dusty streets of ancient Israel, the crowd pressed in from every direction. Word had spread quickly that Jesus of Nazareth, the healer, the miracle worker, the one who spoke with authority, was coming through the village. Men left their workshops. The men paused their baking, and children ran down narrow paths shouting, "He's coming! The Master is coming!" But farther down the road, in a quiet, lonely corner of the village, there was a woman who had almost given up. She was tired, so unbelievably tired. For 12 long years, 144 months, she had been tormented by an illness that brought not only physical pain, but shame, isolation, and financial ruin. Scripture simply calls it an issue of blood, but anyone at that time would have understood. Her condition made her unclean according to the law. That meant she wasn't allowed to be around others, to worship in the temple, or even to touch someone, for fear of making them unclean too. She lived in isolation. She had spent all her wealth on doctors and remedies. One tried herbal drinks. Another used rituals and ointments. One promised a cure if she paid half her savings, only to leave her worse than before. The more she sought help, the more her hope faded. There were days she didn't even want to get out of bed. Nights when she prayed through her tears, "God, why me? Where are you?" Sometimes she wondered if God had forgotten her name. Maybe he had moved on to more important people. Yet deep in her heart, a small spark remained, a spark of hope. And even though it seemed foolish to keep hoping, sometimes it flickered more brightly. One morning, as she sat alone, exhausted and frustrated, she heard commotion outside. Voices carried through the window. "The teacher is on his way. Jesus is coming." Her heart skipped. Jesus. She had heard the rumors about him. How he touched lepers and made them clean. How he opened blind eyes, unstopped deaf ears. How he raised the dead. Could it be true? Could he truly be the Messiah, the Son of David, the one who sets captives free? The spark within her turned into a flame. She rose to her feet slowly, trembling. She knew the risks. If the crowd discovered a woman with an issue of blood among them, they could angrily cast her out or worse. But the thought came to her mind, "If I may but touch the hem of his garment, I shall be whole." It wasn't the garment that had power. It was her faith in him. She believed that even the slightest contact with Jesus could bring her healing. Covering herself as best as she could, she made her way toward the noise. Around the corner, she saw the crowd. They weren't just standing, they were pressed together, almost crushing one another as they tried to get closer to him. She felt a moment of panic. How could I reach him? But desperation is sometimes a great motivator. With each step, she whispered in her heart, "Lord, help me." She lowered her head and slipped into the crowd. People were too focused on Jesus to notice her. She inched forward. Someone stepped in front of her. She took a breath and moved between two others. She could see him now. He was speaking to a synagogue ruler named Jairus. The woman heard talk of a dying little girl, and her heart grieved and prayed silently for that child too. Jesus began to move forward. The crowd shifted. The woman saw the fringe of his robe only a few feet away. This was her moment. With tears streaming down her face, she leaned forward and stretched out her hand. Her fingers brushed the hem of his garment, and instantly she felt power surge through her body. Warmth, light, peace, something she had never felt before in all her years of suffering. Immediately, the flow of blood stopped. Her pain vanished. The weight that had pressed down upon her soul was lifted. She knew she was healed completely, miraculously. She withdrew her hand and for a moment stood still in awe and gratitude. But then Jesus stopped. He turned around in the massive crowd and asked the impossible question, "Who touched me?" The disciples around him were puzzled. They said, "Master, the crowd surrounds you and presses on you, and you're asking who touched you?" But Jesus replied, Someone touched me. I perceive that power has gone out from me. The woman froze. She could run away. But something in his voice wasn't angry or accusing. It was kind. It was full of compassion. She fell to her knees, trembling, and confessed everything before him and the crowd. She told about her 12 years of suffering, her hopelessness, her faith that led her to touch him. Jesus looked upon her with eyes that seemed to pierce through time and eternity. He smiled. "Daughter," he said, the only time in Scripture he used that word, "your faith has made you whole. Go in peace." Daughter, a word of belonging, of love, of acceptance. The woman stood with tears of joy streaming down her face, no longer ashamed, no longer unclean, no longer forgotten. She walked away healed, not only in body, but in spirit. Her faith in Jesus had transformed her life. And to this day, her story speaks to all who struggle, who suffer in silence, who feel unworthy or forgotten. For the same Jesus who touched her is still near to those who reach out in faith. He is waiting. All we need to do is stretch out our hand.